Very good morning and warm welcome to you all for our today's session. A very good morning and welcome you all for today's live session on career prospects for economics in various universities, especially in Colas IAS and also our Joint Secretary, Dr. Nilufa, for giving this opportunity to conduct this live session from TSWRDC Brainquantum College. Today we have two eminent professors with us who are working in Azim Premji University, Professor K.C. Adena and Professor Kedar Kulkarni. So they are going to give a session on what are the opportunities we have in economics. They want to get the admissions in the top-notch universities and premier universities. I hope that this session will definitely enlighten them and also help them to select the best universities. So I take the privilege to introduce today's our guest speakers, Professor K.C. Adena. Professor K.C. Adena did his PhD in economics from IIT Madras. He expertised in the areas of environmental economics, especially in environmental valuation, economic ecosystems, and human well-being, traditional ecological knowledge, and sustainability, etc. His ongoing research projects are on just transition towards renewable energy, traditional ecological knowledge and sustainability, place attachment in environmental valuation, etc. He conducted economics, introduction to economics 2, articles published in many national and international journals and also in several newspapers. His latest research article was published on linkages between economic growth and environmental outcomes, a case from the Nilgiri district of the Western Ecological Economics, INSCE, New Delhi. He presented the paper in 11th Biennial Conference in 2021. So, sir, we are very happy to have you here, girls. I request you to bring the session.
Thank you very much. The microphone is.
Yeah, yes, sir, use them.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me and my colleague Kedar to be here this morning. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me and my colleague Kedar to be here this morning. Thank you so much for the warm hospitality and warmly welcoming us. It's really great to be walking into such a great concept that we were just talking about, which is telling us social welfare residential educational concept. As we were just discussing, I think this is a model that would really be replicated elsewhere across different states, and to really look at what would be the traditional outcome of such a very interesting model that we have here. So it is really biggest pleasure with which we are able to come and share some of our thoughts. The objectives of our interaction today is really twofold, so to say. One is really to encourage all of you who are sitting here and to let you know that pursuing economics is a very worthwhile agenda to have in life economics offers. And one of which is, of course, the Azim University, where both of us are from today. I think I just want to start by saying that all of us are born curious, and then we need to stay curious. I think over time, as we grow, we begin to lose sense of our curiosity. We stop asking interesting questions. Many times we think that the questions that we are asking are not really useful or interesting, or that we're not asking the right kind of questions. For whatever reason, somehow we shy away from asking questions. And I think it's really important for us as students and also in the field of academia to really be asking a lot of questions. For us as students and also in the field of academia to really be asking a lot of questions. At the point of time that we're asking, we probably do not even know what an important question is it that we're even asking. But over time, we begin to realize that it's important to maintain that curiosity. I have two little daughters at home. One is 1.5 years, and the other one is 4.5 years. The elder daughter asks a lot of questions. I mean, as a parent, I thought they're really silly sometimes. But then again, she's asking a lot of fundamental questions, even about life, or about many things that you consider otherwise silly. But on introspection, I realized, my God, it's so important to ask questions. So I took her to Azim Premji campus the other day, and she happened to see a frog, and she was asking me, why is it that frogs are jumping? I mean, it has hands and legs, like many other species, but other species tend to walk or run. But why is it that frogs jump? I mean, I don't have, but why is it that frogs jump? I mean, I don't have any response to that. But I'm just saying that human beings are born as very curious. Human beings are very curious species. Human beings are very curious species in a sense. And I think it's important to sort of maintain that curiosity and not lose track of that curiosity. It's important to keep asking a lot of questions. And whether you study economics, sociology, history, pol science, or any discipline, I think the real purpose of our education is to enable us and become masters. What kind of theories exist that explain a lot of the war, the Russian-Ukraine war, for example, or the ethnic violence that happened? I mean, if we are to really open our eyes and see what is happening around us, it's important for us to ask questions. And education is what provides us with analytical tools and the kind of confusion is one such discipline that provides us with very useful analytical tools to understand it from the point of view of economics. And say, as students of economics, would I be able to answer some of these questions? So we tend to think that economics is a very, very rigid discipline. We tend to think that economics, most students, when we ask them for definitions of economics or what they think is economics during interviews and so on, many students tend to say that economics is about money, it's about financial management. We always tend to think that economics is financial management. I think 70–80% of students' responses on the definition of economics tends to be always related to money. And I just want to let you know that economics is a lot more a wider discipline than just thinking about income or financial management. So there are so many things, as I was saying, that happens in our society. There are many social, political, environmental happenings which have economic causes. So economics can be the cause for many of the social crises. economics can be the cause for many of the environmental or even the political crisis. When why there's an ethnic clash between two different tribes. And then we begin to realize that, okay, I think at the end of the day, they're really fighting for something like land or the territorial control of where land which are very integral concepts in our production process. So economics have a cause for many of the social, environmental, political conflicts that happen now. Likewise, all of these crises also have economic repercussions. It has implications for the way we understand economics, the way we do economics, and therefore economics is very central. I mean, amongst many social sciences subjects, I think it's really important to study economics, to pursue higher studies in economics, and to equip ourselves with many of the theoretical and analytical tools which will help us make sense of what is really going right or wrong in the environment. So I'm sorry I'm not able to show my slide here, but I have few. Oh, I think I'm.
So it has to be a bit fast. If it is near to your mouth, watch on the clear.
Okay.
So fast. Keep it a bit fast and then it will clear.
Okay. How about now? And someone say, is this a good distance?
Yes.
So I was just saying that economics has very wide implications. So if there's any legal change or a constitutional amendment that happens, even though we're not students of law, even though we don't, aspire to become advocates or lawyers, it's important as students of economics to know what kind of legal frameworks or legal amendments or constitutional amendments are happening in the country, because those constitutional amendments tends to have various economic issues. And that's the point that I'm trying to address here. So, for example, some of you might be aware about the Forest Conservation Act that got passed in both the houses just 2 months back. Okay, so there's this thing called Forest Conservation Act 2023. Now, that act has a lot of repercussions, particularly for forest dwelling communities in the country. There are so many tribals, there are so many uh, households with very low income living either as forest dwelling communities or in the vicinity of various forests. Now, an act like Forest Conservation Act 2023 can have tremendous implications in terms of cutting the livelihood activities or livelihood sources of forest dwelling communities. So I'm saying, as students of economics, we need to keep track of the kind of constitutional changes that's happening. Right? We can't say that, okay, that's for lawyers, that's for advocates, or that's about physics, that's about biology, and that's about history, philosophy, and therefore our economy. I think in various ways that we really understand if we do not study economics, which will help us see the connection between, let's say, Forest Conservation Act and economic output. My second question is really about the next question, which is, should economists care about climate change? Again, when we talk about climate change, we tend to think that, okay, there are researchers or scholars in the field of neurosciences, physical sciences, who we think, or engineers, who we think should be dealing with problems of climate change. Because we know that climate change is about greenhouse gases, emissions, it's about global warming, and all of those physical manifestations. And we tend to think that economics do not have much to do or say about climate change. Whereas in reality, I'm saying that when there's a phenomenon like climate change, and we have extreme heat wave, for example, or there's tremendous amount of flood or drought, and it has varies for the kind of agricultural production. Right? And agricultural production has again very close connection with the income level of various farmers. and also with food security of a country like India. So India being an agrarian economy, an economy predominantly based on agriculture, it's really important that as students know about climate change because he is he has an expertise in the field of climate change. But right now it is a law, whether it's constitutional amendment, whether it's something of a very physical amendment, because it has tremendous economic implications. Some questions like why is it that our shopping malls, for example, supermarket, we have seen some supermarkets and sure there are many in Japan. Why is it that the supermarkets and malls are very clean and shiny and you walk in and it's fully air conditioned and feel nice? But the moment you walk onto that, the roads are so dirty. There's so much we need to be curious. We need to keep our eyes open. Right? We need to see what is happening with our environment, with the air that we're breathing. If you happen to see the newspaper lately, I think in the last 2 weeks, there's a lot of discussion on the newspaper about pollution levels. And so winter has come. Again, this is a season for pollution. There's a lot of politicization, of course, that happens, saying that farmers in Punjab, Haryana are burning the stubbles that it leads to high pollution. But I'm saying, as students of economics, what kind of tools can we come up with to control pollution? And this is a real problem that we're encountering as a country or as citizens of a country. I know personally of many people, citizens, who were living in Delhi but left the city with their spouse, with their husband, with their wife, with their family, because they just cannot deal with the level. But obviously, not everyone can be Delhi because of pollution. We need to do something to reduce the level of pollution. The economics as a discipline provides us with analytical tools which will change people's behavior on the levels of pollution, which we are now realizing. Are there ways to alter or change the levels of pollution? Does economics provide some solution to that? Right? So these are very interesting questions that we can ask. So like I said, economics, higher studies, particularly postgrad, and hopefully also at the PhD and even postdoc level. And in that process, I also want to share my own personal journey of why I chose to, pursue higher studies in economics. And I'm saying that my interest in economics or to pursue kind of personal experiences that I had in the hometown that I come from, in the state that I come from. So I come from this northeastern state called Manipur. Some of you, well, I would love to assume that many of you know where the state Manipur is on the map. Manipur is a state which is or has been experiencing a lot of political turmoil for the last many decades. It's not just Manipur. You will realize that many other states, including Nagaland, Mizoram, Assam, many of these states have been torn apart by political turmoil for the last many decades. Just like the conflict that continues in Jammu and Kashmir, for example. Largely because of a lot of nationalist movements in those areas. Many of the ethnic communities in that part of the world believe that they would like to have a nation of their own, and which is really the basis for the kind of ethnic violence and conflicts. So I just give you a context as to why there's so much of political violence that in the country. So what the government of India did. This is a very peculiar arrangement because I tend to look at people who are here in the classroom. Then, it's good. So I was saying that the very natural response for the government of India to sort of put control to many of this nationalist movement is to militarize the area. militarize the area as in you send a lot of Indian army into the region, right? As a way to counter many of this nationalist movement. I grew up in a place where there's a lot of insurgency activity, a lot of underground activities. I don't know if you are aware of, if you know of these words like insurgency or underground activities, but I hope you do know. In layman's terms, it's like you have a lot of terrorist. Yes. Right. So these are many states that are torn apart by many of this insurgent activities. And I'm saying that when I grew up, I experienced a lot of psychological trauma because of the conflict that is happening between the nationalist Indian army and the militarization that happens to sort of counter many of this terrorist movements, incidents. So what happens is that there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of bombing, and as a student growing up in that kind of an environment, uh, I realized that I was living in a constant state of fear. It's not just me. And so when I look at the news, let's see a newspaper about people running for their lives. You see children running for their lives. I look back in my own life. I look back in my own life and I remember instances where I run. I remember running out of my house with my parents, grabbing some clothes and some useful material for the all useful for your survival. So and living in meditation. On retrospect, I realized this kind of sign, this constant state of fear and economic scholars. In my last year, in my final year, there was the year when Amartya Sen has written the book Development. And Amartya Sen, who is a Nobel laureate in economics, as you all know, has completely reconceptualized the notion of wealth. So we tend to think of development as increase in income. We always tend to say that, okay, if the GDP per capita or income per household or per head increases, then this is economic growth. About education, we need to start thinking about other indicators like health, which is what Telangana social welfare degree colleges are doing. Which is to say that if we want to make Telangana or Andhra, for example, the former Andhra, as a developed state, we have to really pay a lot of emphasis on education. It's not just on education, but there's also a lot of disparity between male and female education status, which is why we have this kind of very targeted interventions like social welfare, degree colleges targeted to female students. All of this are, I'm saying, very useful policy intervention to realize certain state of that. But I'm saying we have moved beyond those understanding of development. The Amartya Sen came about and said, if you want to talk about development, talk of development as people experiencing freedom. To do economics, to pursue economic interest, to do economics, to pursue economics, because I really want to learn more about concepts of wealth. I want to know more about concepts of wealth. Because I really want to learn more about concepts of wealth. I want to know more about concepts of wealth. Those education, health indicators of development. Those education, health indicators of development are not enough. I was living in a political context where constantly people were living in a state of fear. People were not having the freedom to move about. People were not having the freedom to pursue the kind of economic activities that they wanted. And when Amartya Sen came up with that book, that really spoke. Right? And I really wanted to therefore pursue masters in economics. I also came, I also belong to an indigenous community in the north. And like many of you would be familiar, particularly in rural areas and indigenous communities, there's a very close connection between human society and nature. Right? So the kind of worldview that indigenous communities have about the environment is very different. Economics sometimes helps us to frame that relationship in a very objective. which is that if you want to know the value of a tree or a river, for example, economists have come up with very useful tools to put values to a tree or a river. Okay? Because economics is also about measurement. Measurement of certain concepts, measurement of relationships between different variables and so on, measurement of certain concepts, measurement of relationships between different variables and so on. So economists are very preoccupied with measurement. And I'm saying that measurement is of course useful in various contexts. If you want to know the poverty level of India, for example, of course it's useful to measure. And what is the extent of India, for example? Of course it's useful to measure. And what is the extent of poverty in our country? You want to know the level of inequality in our country, it's important to measure. So I'm saying that there are many useful things that economics provides us in terms of tools for measurement. But it's also important to realize that there are also limits to measurement, which is that if you want to know the value of a certain environmental resource like a river or a tree or a forest, and if you're talking about tribal communities or indigenous communities, where they have a very different worldview about the way they understand a river or a forest. So you have sacred groves, for example. You have Ganga River, for example, which is considered holy. Right? For various symbolic, cultural, spiritual reasons, you're considering those certain environmental entities to be very valuable to you, but not in the framework that economics provide, not in the market. So I'm saying that there are so many interesting things to really learn and study, know more about economics, what economics can do right for us in our society. Or as students of economics, try to push the boundary of the discipline. Right? So these are a few interesting questions that I had when I was growing up and wanted to know more about and wanted to therefore pursue it. And I want to encourage all of you to open your eyes, see the society around you, see the kind of the extent of inequality in your society, for example. So try to feel the extent of poverty, for example, in the society that you live, and then try to go beyond what conventional economics does, which is to try and measure poverty by saying that, okay, let's draw a poverty line. Let's call it 32 rupees per day or $2.5 per day, according to World Bank. Whatever it be, you draw a certain poverty line and say, okay, we don't have this much expenditure per day, you must spend. Right? I want us to go much beyond that. I want us to look at various dimensions of poverty. It's not just the income deprivation, but what is a poor person deprived in? What are the other dimensions in which a poor person is deprived of, for example? What's the kind of social stigmatization associated with poverty? In one of the other events that me and my colleague went to very recently, I was talking about the psychological dimension of poverty, which is what a lot of behavioral economists are talking about. And they're talking about this very interesting concept of economics of scarcity, which is that short of something, if you experience a scarcity of something, you will always think about that thing on which you are experiencing scarcity. So if you're a poor person, it means that you are experiencing scarcity of income or money. So for a poor person, he's always thinking of his income level, his monthly income, how to place food on the table. Can I feed my wife and my children? So he's always thinking about increasing his income all the time. That a good part of his mind is devoted only to earning income. That poor person tends therefore to make a series of bad decisions. Right? Not because poor people are more stupid, not because poor people are less intelligent, but because a good part of their mental faculty. So that when there's a free health camp, for example, when there is a need to voter for education, for example, many of those important decisions about health, which have health and education implications, many poor people tend to miss out. Many poor people tend to make a series of bad decisions, right? Because of poverty, to understand. So you see, there are different ways to understand poverty. look at the implications of poverty much beyond what traditional or conventional economics really about. So on that note, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about MA economics program. My colleague will talk more about MA economics program across different universities in the country. I'm going to talk a little bit about MA economics program specific to Premji University where we come. Right? So I just wanted to let you know the kind of economics that we do. The kind of economics that we do is precisely the sort that I was telling you, which is that it's important to develop a very plural understanding of an issue. What do I mean by plural understanding of an issue? If you encounter a particular crisis like climate change, conventional, neoclassical, microeconomics approach to resolving the problems of climate change. I mean, all of you are students of economics, so I really know what externality or theory of externality is. Sure, you have studied about that. You know that climate change is the classic example of negative externality. You will have correctly studied about what are the ways to internalize this negative externality. So there are very standard economic rules and equipments to deal with the problem of climate change. But I'm just saying that that's one or that's a unidimensional understanding of resolving or solving the problem of climate change. There is a way to think about how to resolve issues of climate change. There are behavioral approaches to, let's say, dealing with climate change. Like how to change our behavior in the first place. So instead of polluting so much and trying to control, can we also think of not polluting enough? Right? What are the ways to change our behavior so that we are more careful and aware, right? What kind of energy intensive lifestyle, what kind of carbon intensive lifestyle can we change from that? So I'm just saying that there are different ways to think behavioral approaches, for example, which is slightly different from, let's say, the typical neoclassical microeconomic approach dealing with single factors. I'm just letting you know that the kind of economics that we do in economic crisis and environmental crisis, I say that there are different ways of looking at that crisis and different approaches to resolving those crises that we experience now. Resolving those crises that we experience now. I thought I would talk a little bit about some of the courses and curricular structure that we have in our focus and devote a lot of energy to talking about real world economics. I don't know if any of you who are studying economics have started losing out on the discipline. Talking about real world economics. I don't know if any of you who are studying economics have started losing out on the discipline because economics tends to be very dull and dry, very abstract. Right? It's like it's a theory that somebody had written 200 years ago and we're studying and what is the real world application of economics. We tend to lose out, we tend to lose out, we tend to sort of lose sight of it. And I'm saying that the way to understand economics, as I also begin to realize, is to really contextualize the theories and concepts that we study, the theories and concepts that we study in the real world. So if you walk out on the street, this course, for example, or in the evening, you begin to see some of the roadside vendors. You begin to see people who are selling groceries. Right? You begin to see people who are selling potatoes on the road. And then the kind of informal sector that you study in economics is what you really see on a daily basis. And you want to know what kind of market is that is going. Right? Little concept that you learn about, let's say, price differentiation or price discrimination. Do they really work in the real world economy? What are the ways in which standards of vegetables are engaging in different forms of price discrimination? Right? So I'm just giving you an example where it's important to study economics from the real world perspective. We are also very India specific in the sense that we we look at the ecological history of India, we look at the economic history of India, we look at the power, the power imbalances or power relations that drives economic policies the last, 75 to 80 years since independence and so on. One of the, I thought, very useful things to know about when studying economics is very important. When I was studying economics, I barely remember the data. There's no data set, there's no database, there's no database. Of course, we have textbooks, we only see graphs, we only see demand curves. I never imagined, or I can never remember any instance where, in the textbook or in the classroom discussion, there was a reference to any kind of a data set. And today, things like the world have changed so much, the world have moved ahead so much, there's so much of databases, there's a lot of state level and country level statistical organizations who collects data, and on the basis of which we can make all of very interesting studies about inequality, female labor force participation, for example, in the country, whether female labor force had increased or not. You remember the Nobel Prize in Economics this year, when Golden, some of you might be aware of that, for her work on understanding more about female labor force. How do you know that how many females in India are in the workforce? Right? And I'm saying that there are very useful data set that gives you an idea about whether female labor force has increased or have decreased, and if it has increased, why has it increased? If the female labor force participation has decreased, why has it decreased? And so those very interesting questions are something that you can ask. Finally, I just want to say that we also, how do you analyze those data? So in our area program, we teach softwares like R, Python, Snake Eyes. So what essentially I'm trying to say is that it's important to learn economics in the real sense, the empirical sense, and that we need to also equip ourselves with analytical tools and softwares and be able to analyze those data to make sense of the work that so I think I would stop with that for now. Later on, after my colleague finishes speaking, we will of course have a short time of Q&A, where any students, all of you are encouraged to ask any questions that you have, either about specific about economics as a discipline, or about economics program like with you, or about economic programs in India or something. So thank you once again. It's been a great privilege and we are humbled to be here. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, from your session, we understood that how the economics has wider applications in various fields, and any problem we take that has its roots in economics, and they are deeply connected to economics. So, the student studies about economics, I think she can be achieved or undertaken in this session. Now it's time to introduce another guest speaker of today's session, Professor Kedar Kulkarni, who is also working in Azim Premji University. So Professor Kedar Kulkarni did his PhD in Applied Economics from Oregon State University 2021. So from his qualification, I understood that sir is an econometrician. His areas of interest include climate change, development economics, risk and uncertainty, applied economics, economics of agriculture, sustainable development, etc. He conducted several sessions on introduction to climate change economics, introduction to statistics and programming, etc. etc. He published papers in international seminars conducted in various international universities. To name a few, he published papers in international seminars conducted in various international universities. To name a few, Miami, Florida, UT Austin, Western Agricultural Economics Association annual meeting, etc. And currently he's working on determinants of risk exposure and analysis of Korean rice forms using partial and quantile models. Another paper was a new methodology for measuring new methodology for measuring households' vulnerability to poverty. Can online classroom aids improve student outcomes in economics courses? Then another paper on which sir is working is the impact of environmental regulations on health across country empirical analysis. So these are the papers on which sir is currently working. So with this brief note of introduction, I request Professor Kedar Kulkarni sir to deliver this session. Over to Kedar Kulkarni.
Okay. Good point.
It is on because if you are very near to your mouth, your echo distance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here and interact with all of you. The purpose of our visit is really very simple. That we understand there are many curious students out there who are pursuing bachelor's in economics, and they want to understand what are the future career options in economics. What can they do afterwards? How can they pursue their interest? So I'm going to say in the next few minutes. It will be really useful for you to make a decision about what kind of economics you want to do. It will be really useful for you to make a decision about what kind of economics you want to do. So I'm from Hyderabad. I did my education here in Hyderabad University. And that was really the place that gave me a fantastic exposure in understanding economics. Okay, I owe a lot to the teachers I have who built a lot of curiosity and explained to me how to look at economics. For example, a lot of my work is around agriculture. And I have never grown in an agricultural farm. I'm a person who grew in a big city like Hyderabad, agricultural farm. I'm a person who grew in a big city like Hyderabad. In fact, the first time I saw a farm was after my graduation. But something that was, in fact, the first time I saw a farm was after my graduation. But something that was extremely curious to me was that in our textbooks, that when we study any kind of knowledge, like economics, or you can extremely curious to me was that in our textbooks, that when we study any kind of knowledge, like economics, or you can look at international economics, a lot of concepts are derived from agriculture. So you look at international economics, a lot of concepts are derived from agriculture. So you think of Ricardo, who's talking about land rents that you have all studied about. Or if you study microeconomics, you will produce a theory. You will think about the concavity or the graph that goes first rising and then there's a king, it starts declining, marginal productivity. So textbooks always give us these concepts. Most of the time we are looking at it in graph format. Like you draw some graph, then your teacher or someone explains that, okay, this is how it should look like, this is why it looks like. But one of the problems with our teaching, and I think it still exists, is that students are never really exposed. Where does this graph actually come from? But all you know is that you open the textbook or teacher says, okay, this is the shape. But we never ever question, is it actually true? And that is why a lot of the economics that we do today is testing these kind of theories. And so I'm more of a data person. Unfortunately, I don't have the graphs to show because of certain reasons. But if you go around the farms, especially in this part of the country, go to Nalgonda district or go to Mahbubnagar district, there are many farms. And the organization like ICRISA, based in Patachal, actually 20 kilometers from here. They have collected data on almost all agricultural farms within these two districts. Nalgonda and you go and see the data because they are working in that farm. And you try to plot the data, you will see exactly. And you try to plot the data, you will see exactly the figure that your textbook shows. And training is not yet there. There is the data on paper or some irrigation. And I tell you, can you plot this? We have all done statistics, we know how to plot a graph. You plot this and it will exactly replicate the production function that we have textbook shop. And this is the idea of the MA program in our economics at Azim. We want students to understand the real world application, as my colleague was saying, that okay, there is some theory out there, but we want the students to find them themselves. We give them the data, we try to push them, see, okay, can you actually see whether this theory is true or not? Here is some data. One of the best things about our program is that every student in the MA program has to compulsory do a field work. Understanding how people make choices. That experience is amazing for someone with studying economics because a lot of the economics that you do on paper, you are not able to really understand whether it was true or not. You talk about poverty, you try to ask the questions, you yourself figure out, you will not really become a good economist. So for all who are really interested in taking this subject forward, I would always suggest that be curious, there's a lot of data, you need to really start working with data. And I'll tell you why this is important from both your understanding as well as career options. The other thing I wanted to say is, as economic students, one of the biggest fears we have is that I do not know math. Right? Many of the students who do economics think that I do not know math, but I can do economics and I can still get a better job. This is the mindset many of us have, and there is nothing wrong about it. You can do good economics without math. Right? 10th, 9th, 10th math, you succeed in the program. Of course, if you want to really do research in economics and all, you might need to learn some mathematics. But if you want to do good economics, you can still do it without math. Okay, I'll give you an example. One question you may always ask me, because it's a policy that is meant for everyone. The government is guaranteeing you 100 days of job. That's it. So how does it affect education? But that's when the economic thinking really comes. And that is the kind of thinking everyone should start incorporating in their minds. That is okay. Yes, it's a policy created for the purpose of employment, but it has additional benefits. When you provide jobs to people who are unable to find jobs, their income increases. They have more purchasing power, and because they care about their families, and they start using that income as a form of investment. They are investing in their children. They are saying, okay, I have 200 more rupees, I can now provide the tuition fee for them to go to the school. So these are the kind of questions that we really want students to start thinking. And these are extremely important questions. Instead of, see, there are 2 or 3 types of economics content. One is think about government policies, think about welfare, think about poverty, which is really at the core of what we as economists and also we as a citizen of the country currently think about. Because these are the challenges we have. Okay. On the other hand, there are a lot of students who think of economics as I was saying, about money, about stock markets, about financial portfolio. That is a very, very typical neoclassical and very niche way of thinking about economics. Economics is essentially about how people make choices. What are the ways that determine people's choices. It's about analyzing government, it's about analyzing environment. So there is no one particular definition. So one thing I would say is whatever your textbook has told, get rid of that definition. It should look like. Our approach, and this is what I would define economics should look like. Our approach, and this is what I would recommend everyone is that the approach to understanding economics should be about understanding society and there's not one way to think about it. Now, there's not one way to think about it. Let's come to the most important part of what we wanted to do here is we want to tell you what kind of opportunity you have after pursuing your degree in economics. Okay? So after your degree, a master's in economics, you have to sit for entrance exam. Okay? There is the Central University entrance exam. Okay? There is the Central University entrance exams, which you have to prepare for. Then there are which you have to prepare for. Then there are also IITs that have their own entrance exams, and our universities like Ashoka, Kriya University, Azim, private universities, they also have their own. Okay. So there are many of these universities that you can think about, but the only problem is that 90% of the institutions in the country who offer an MA in economics require you to know really good math. Like you need to know calculus, you need to know how to differentiate, you need to understand functions. And the problem is that these institutions, in a way, they are emphasizing more on the mathematical part and quantitative part than the actual economics part. Because when you give the exam, you're tested more on the math than the economics. So that is a big good constraint. Okay? Our university is one of those universities that has tried to fill this gap in that we understand you do not know economics, you do not know mathematics, but are interested in economics. It's fine. We will teach you economics without really needing to know all of that math. It is that, see, I am one of those who did not do math at the bachelor's level. My math was very weak. But still, I think I'm doing very fine in terms of me as an economist. Okay, and I want you all to think of this as getting rid of the fear of math. Okay? It's not important at all. If you have a good intuition and good understanding of what you are doing, it's more than enough. Math is just a tool for you to put some rigor in it. The other thing I wanted to say is many economic students are going to deal with data. Okay? Today and in the future, that's where the economics lies at. You need to understand data, you need to understand how to analyze it. And that is also one of the things that we in our MA program emphasize on. I want you to understand how popular subjects these days. Because it helps you to analyze good data in a very meaningful. And so, which brings me to the last part of my question, which is that what can you do after a degree in economics, especially postgraduate? There are many opportunities. For example, most of our students who do a MA in economics end up in the social sector. Yes, they are working with organizations like Mazdoor Kisan Yojana. They are working with Silva. They are working as analysts with leading think tanks like Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. They are working with research institutions as analysts, for example, Kriya, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Delhi. And most of them do extremely well. If you go and ask them their salaries are just after the education is completed with us, the minimum they start with is around 6 lakhs. Right? So 6 lakhs per annum is close to 45 to 50,000 rupees per month. That's a really big income for someone who just finished the MA in economics. And there's only the important, that is, how do you enter the job market? Because once you are in the job market, it's easy to progress from there. Many students have constraint that they cannot find the first big job. Right? And our university is extremely well placed to ensure the reliability after the. We have a placement center that prepares you to with your CVs, cover letters, how to apply for jobs, how to interview recruiters. This kind of training sometimes really helps for students who come from a different kind of background. They are not used to understanding the job. Students who are coming from these kind of institutions, where the preparation is quite low. And so our university is very well equipped with handling such matters. The other thing I wanted to say is it's becoming an essential skill for all the to learn from that. I can guarantee you after 2 years, not only will you be able to run a program, you will be able to go out there, you will collect your own data, come up with an alternative government or they have multiple schemes. Think of the free electricity many governments give out. Think of the agricultural schemes they give out. They collect data on that and they want economists to understand how this scheme has this permission. I'll give you another very short example. This is a coal. The coal process, right? You open the plate, put the coal, and wait for it to get warm. And after that, you start your business. This is called the traditional practice. You think of a government scheme where the government is saying, no, this is not useful for many of you. Because first of all, you have to use coal, it is not beneficial for your health. Secondly, heating of coal takes a lot of time. And the steel box itself is really, really heavy. Right? And you go and start lifting that steel box and see how heavy. After 2 seconds, you drop it, but that's how heavy that boxes are. So government says, okay, we have a solution to this. Instead of you using this whole box, we will give you a light box that is run on LPG. Okay. And so now the government wants to know whether giving this LPG had any positive impact or not. Okay, this is a useful question. But think of multiple schemes like this. They might give some free irrigation policy for agriculture. They might give new hybrid seeds saying that this will increase your yield and this will give you better rice crops and so on. Okay. The government has done its job, but it wants to really know whether this scheme has worked or not. And every time it wants to analyze this, it hires an economist. Right? It hires an economist because they want the economist to figure out whether the scheme has had any positive, whether the scheme has worked or not. And so this has become a really unique and very job for many economists. That is, they are interested in data science. Right? And data science positions, obviously, they are highly employable, but the issue is that many of them are scared of programming or not. And how to get that skill that has become a challenge for them. Our everyone is very much equipped with this. Because as I said, you are learning how to program every semester of the curriculum. And so by the end of 2 years, you will be really very well placed to program and learn. Okay. Other than that, I don't have much to say. We have some brochures that we wanted to distribute. So we'll leave it to Dr. Principal Man. So we can distribute them among students. But we can open the floor for questions because we want to really interact more than speak. So if you have any questions, please ask. And it's okay if you want to ask them, then I can understand the also. Yeah, we'll answer in English, but they can
Thank you very much, sir. As you rightly said that the application of economics is not just limited to one particular sector or one particular field, it has wide applications. So wide applications implies wide opportunities. So if a student studies economics, she or he will get many opportunities, job opportunities. So this is really an encouraging factor for the students to choose economics in their masters. And you also cleared our students' doubt that though that they lack mathematics knowledge, they feel that without maths they can't do well in economics, and they hesitate to choose economics as their option in masters. So now we cleared their doubts that without mathematics knowledge also they can do masters in economics. And how the master program in economics in APU has an edge over the other universities. That also explained very clearly, sir. Thank you very much. So now the session is open for question and answers. So if you have any queries, girls, you can ask, and you can, sir has given the choice also. You can ask even in Telugu. You can come here and you can.
Job opportunities in what are the job opportunities? The job opportunities to choose anything
After your country, what stage you will be.
Yeah. So, I'm just after doing the MIT. See, in terms of the opportunity, you can join almost any kind of. Okay. So, for example, one clear option is to join the social sector. Okay, many of the social sector, which is, you can think of NGOs, think tanks, analyst positions, all of this, tanks, analyst positions, all of this. They are looking for economists who want to come and work with them. They are looking for economists who want to come and work with them on the field. So if you are interested in going to the ground, working with community. So if you are interested in going to the ground, working with communities who are in the rural areas, who are in the rural areas, social organizations and so on. These kind of organizations are looking for economists who can come and do some kind of, let's say, get a questionnaire, ask questions, collect data, then use the data to analyze and do something about. This is one kind of job. Okay. The second job is, for example, you can join the government. Okay, one option is IES, Indian Economic Service. Okay, for this you have to give the like the IES and all, not the exam, you have to give the IES exam. Or you can join state governments like AP government, Telangana government, Rajasthan government. Many of our students have working with the government. The idea is that government has many of these schemes, like I said, right? Manrega scheme, it has the free electricity scheme and so on. They want good economists who can join the government and then work with the government to understand whether the scheme has worked or not, whether the scheme has any positive or negative impacts, how is the scheme working with the local government, has any positive or negative impacts, how is the scheme working with the local community. So for that, you need a good economics because economics have the tools and the methodologies to assess. Okay, all of this you learn in your economics, how to evaluate the policy, how to build a questionnaire, how to program the questionnaire, how to analyze the data. Okay. This is the second kind of job. The third kind of job is that you can join private companies. Many companies like Amazon, Flipkart, they all hire economists on a regular basis, mostly in the financial position or in the data analysis position. Okay. The fourth, you can go in research. So if you want to do, let's say, PhD, or if you want to do some kind of research-based job, go in research. So if you want to do, let's say, PhD, or if you want to do some kind of research-based job, that also is possible. So many of our students now work with institutions like IIT and IIM. That also is possible. So many of our students now work with institutions like IIT and IIM. They are working there as research analysts. So there is so professors like us, we have big grants, we have big projects, and we want some students who can join the project and work with us on the project. Okay? So that is the last step. So all of these jobs are available. If you want to know how much is the salary, that also available. Your salary.
So generally in data sheet, they prefer the students with MPA or Kazan.
Not really. There are university positions that will take any economics. Many of us, at least 5 to 6 students of us join private companies.
Except the employees, I,
So for IIM, we have to give something called a CAT, Common Admission. For universities like JNU, Hyderabad University, uh, all of the other central universities, you have to give a CAT. So you can of course there are opportunities to apply after many of you can apply for PhDs abroad. And
What is the process around the GRT document?
so that we will tell once you start applying. It's a complex process, but some universities require you to give a common exam like graduate research examination (GRE). Universities require you to give a common exam like graduate research examination (GRE). Okay. Some of them do not require any. Okay. Some of them do not require any of this. You just have to apply on their website, and then they will make the selection. You just have to apply on their website, and then they will make the selection.
question.
Joint admission in masters. Private.
So then, so the IITs and all, they are extremely technical. So when I say technical, they are testing you on your quantitative ability. So you need to know really good math. So you have to have concepts like differentiation, integration, vector algebra. So that those kind of questions are going to be asked. Yeah. And then you can get admission to IIT.
Sir, why not?
Yeah.
So they will have more knowledge compared to art students.
Yeah.
So they have to compare to art students.
Yeah.
So they have to face the competition. You can face the competition. You can face them.
Right.
So cracking that entrance exam is hardest thing.
It's very difficult because yeah, you are correct. Because see, economics is a theory where you don't need to have a degree in economics to do economics. So MA in economics can be done by someone who has done BTech also. Okay, now think of someone who has done BTech. They have a really different kind of syllabus. They do a lot of engineering, math, and so on. So for them, it's easy to math. Okay, so that kind of competition is always there.
I know. When we say like after we have jobs and social security, we have one platform like where we can go after the
Usually in India, the job market, how it works is once you join any university, in your final year, you will be told that these are the organizations that will come to the campus and they will recruit you. So this is called as campus placements. Even at our university, we have this. So what happens in your second year, when you are told that campus placements are happening, you have to register, then you will be paid for this. For example, we will prepare you with your CV, we'll give you the interview, mock interview, how to do all of this. We'll also help you in selecting which organization to check for jobs, which organizations is not good for your job, and so on.
So through campus placements only we can get opportunity.
You can also get outside. On your own, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because unless you have some kind of because they many of them do not know people outside.
Yes.
So it's difficult for them to know.
If they get seated universities like ABU and good seated universities, IITs, it's hope for them to join.
Every year we get around 20 jobs by the end of the day. In some kind of job, whatever they are interested in, we ensure that they get it. And some of them get much better paying jobs. Some of them start with lower salary. But my point is not. My point is not that. Not that. My point is you get a job. You can always switch jobs. It's not that you have one job in will for your life. Not that. My point is you get a job. You can always switch jobs. It's not that you have one job in will for your life. You start
What are the various,
program. But if you are also interested in development, that also is there. MI development is also another. Both of them are really good programs and both of them are required.
Sir, but these days that to crack the Indian is very difficult. So our students, like they are from studying only statistics for themselves. So they are like we are doing more math than entrance examination difficult. So how do you learning math and non-math equally or
So our syllabus about 200 points.
that is that you means
if a student can think logically,
Yeah, so for example, we say, okay, the government has implemented this policy. Okay, what do you think will this policy do to the environment? Okay. Or for example, we ask questions like uh, uh, inclusion and exclusion. Okay, we all know Aadhaar card, right? So there are people who might be excluded from Aadhaar card. Like on what basis are they excluded? Or there might be people who do not deserve Aadhaar card, but they have the Aadhaar card.
so first thing is they should have some general knowledge.
They should have a very good knowledge of how Indian system works, Indian economy works,
In economy, in the various policies.
and the various policies.
So I think I'll try and add a little bit more to that. Brochure or folder there. Where you open, you find that there is largely the test students of microeconomic knowledge, microeconomic knowledge, what weightage you have. And then there's also one more one, descriptive for essay fact. All of which are largely based on under. So even the quantitative bit is not going to be like rocket science. Right? So we don't want to ask math per se. We don't want to ask statistics per se. We want to know how students are able to apply their mathematical or statistical knowledge in the context of economics. So economic inclusion therefore is really important. Right? So the example that my colleague was giving the example, it's like let's say this year the demand for Manrega jobs compared to last year. Here the question is what is that? Why? Is there an increased demand for market? So then you have to start thinking about, okay, who are the people who are demanding the job? Is it that more female are coming out of their domestic spheres to come out and work? Whether their husbands are allowing more for it? Or is it because something like the implications on impact of COVID now demand more money job? Then what's happening? Then a lot of reverse migration happening. So we want you to really think through and have that very strong economic intuition to understand that question. Right? So those are what is very useful. At least we believe those are very useful things to know for a student rather than testing your, uh, demand equation or some kind of or differentiation of factors per se. You can also, of course, apply calculus in the context of say the kind of questions that we ask mostly tracking IITs or IIMs or banks or sort of a thing. I just want to let you know, without disregarding many of these, I just want to let you know. So today, when I came out from Bangalore, my colleague is from Hyderabad, he said, and even before here, I already convinced myself that I need to have mutton biryani from Hyderabad because this is a place which is famous for biryani. If I come to Telangana or Andhra or Hyderabad, I should really eat biryani because this is the place which is good at making biryani. And if I go to Kerala, I don't know what kind of. What I'm saying is, IITs, for example, are specific institutions for excellence in engineering. And that's why they call IIT. IIMs are places specific for managerial skill. You want to become manager, okay, by all means go and learn how to manage organization, how to manage various systems. But is that what you want to do? Then you're not in economics. Right? So I'm saying you want to learn economics, I think there are many other institutions that specializes in using and teaching in economics. Then there are some of this. Like I said, I don't need to disregard IT. They also have some good economics. I'm also a good out of IT Madras, let's say. But I also know the kind of economics that we have. Was the stock markets, futures market, derivatives, how to calculate for what volatility, price. These are useful for specific sections of the economy, side for sure. Of course. But what is your social orientation? What does your mind say? What does your heart say? When you say you want to study economics, do you really want to work economics that will translate real impact in the lives of people? For example, is that the kind of orientation? Well, obviously, the kind of economics that you study. Right? So you need to have clarity about what your social orientation. Orientation is important. And I'm not saying that you should not work for Deloitte or Ernst and Young or Goldman Sachs. I'm not saying that. Right? But I'm saying if you work for certain institutions, you know where the profit goes. To whom does the profit go? Right? You're serving certain kind of institutions, certain kind of. And if you believe that, okay, this is the way for you to make a living, then fine, that's fine. Nobody is, saying against that. But if you have more social orientation, environmental orientation, if you're more social in your outcome, then probably you may also want to learn many different other aspects of economics and just data analyzing for big financial companies. Right? So in India we have thinking about IT9, so everyone's talking about IT. Right? And it's like such a big thing to be part of those systems. But we should also be careful in knowing what those institutions are good at producing. Right? So then IITs produce the best engineers, I produce the best managers. We should know that. If we want to be a great economist, I think like me and my colleague have been talking for the last 1.5 hours, there are different ways to think about it. There are different ways of seeing who or what a great process. Thank you.
Some more questions. Sir, like, I think the universities that give so many services for the social marginalized students. So like these days we are observing that our education system is not making the skills like which companies require the skills. So there is a gap. So like do you providing any coaching students to increase their skills and request also that to like to provide and kind of lectures so that our students also improve their skills to appear for their examination.
See, the company, whatever skill they require, right, it depends on the company. For example, if you are going to a Deloitte or a Young, they are looking for someone who is good at math, can do some kind of financial analysis. If you're going to, let's say, Facebook or Apple, these kind of big companies, then they are looking for really good programming because they have big data. All of these things you will learn when you do an economics. Wherever you go, it doesn't matter if you speak
But
or
getting into MA,
so we will come. So how do you get into the MA? See, as my colleague said, there is an entrance guide. Okay, on our website, there is an entrance guide. You can also find past question papers. Okay, so that is the best way to prepare for it. You can, if any student can downloads that, sits with it. It's based in Indian economy. Whatever you have done in Indian economy, some statistics, whatever you have done, much and some microeconomics. That's all the baby class. Thanks. The textbook that is called COR. It's also freely downloaded. You can also download that and you can prepare for the exams.
This is the kind of best.
Yeah. So the questions are also coming from the text. Okay. So one can easily figure out.
So the authors are from cross-disciplinary institutions.
COR.
COR. So the economics that we teach basically always likes to work for economics. COR. If you type CORE in Google, this is open access text. And so you will find something now from Zipfir University. The way economics is approached to this lot of real world examples. We are not is immaterial. And our objective today, like we kept saying, is to encourage all people to pursue economics at the highest level, whichever institution. And when we say our country needs great economists. Our country needs economists who think.
But the other thing is the if you provide free scholarship and free accommodation for all the students coming from all the students of Tamil State Welfare schools and colleges. It will provide free education and accommodation also. So it's fully covered. You don't have to worry because we know that many students are not able to get good education because of this constraint. It's a big constraint on the cost of education. So say every student gets per 180 rupees per day, right, for covering the food. So you can spend 180 rupees. University will give you every day. You can use that to buy food in the cafeteria and all. You will get free laptop. Right? For 2 years, you will get free laptop from the university. So that you don't even have to think about buying the laptop. It's a very costly.
Yes, sir. For students from our college, they study with you and got paid.
Yeah, that's good. So
And one student, she's first year.
okay. Oh, right now.
Right.
Okay. See, 4 years back, we had one student, one of the exceptional students. In Sanjay Pal. I don't know how many people know about him. He is also a product of Telangana State Welfare. Okay, he joined in the BA program. Now he is working with the ministry. He is in Delhi. He is working with the Indian government as a data analyst. There are many others. There is one person called Marjorie. She is also from here. Her mother is a beach worker. She joined in the PA program. She did her MA. Now she is in United UK, Britain. She is doing a PhD. Okay, all of her education was paid by university. She had to do nothing. Okay, many such stories we can share about. So I really encourage you to think about this. It's one of the universities that offers the best support system for students coming from such institutions. Okay, in terms of faculty, we have one of the best economic schools in the country. Okay, we have really amazing faculty who are caring and who are extremely skillful in their thinking. We are ready to, there are 16 in total, okay, and we are going to have more options. So that way, I just wanted to tell about this.
Previously, we had few sessions on Professor Shankumar sir. So,
Yeah.
My favorite grades are another language.
Right. This is a very important point because see our selection process, you have to write a entrance test, then you also have to check for interview. Right? You have to check for interview which is in English. And I understand many of you are still learning English because it's not your mother tongue. Or Telugu. You maybe learned also in Telugu medium.
They studied in English, but they have come from rural country.
Right. So that's see, I'll tell you one thing. You can ask Alena or me. We are in India, for example, is a by default mother tongue is some Indian language. Everyone has learned English at some point. Okay, even madam, you can ask anybody. We did not grow up and first word we spoke was English. So it's but the beauty of the English language is it's one of the most easiest to learn. This is one really, I tell you one option. If I give you the option to learn English or Hindi, you will say, no, I learn English because another Indian language is very difficult to learn. English is one of those languages where you just have to know the basic grammar. You start speaking with everyone else. And I think another thing, speaking in English Your ability to speak fast is not a measure of that you can speak. Yes. The thing that I am saying, someone else can say the same thing in every 2 minutes. It's fine, not a problem. That's it. The important thing is, can you tell 2 or 3 sentences in English about yourself and whatever is your thought. Okay, in an interview, for example, we'll ask, okay, where are you from? I think everyone can answer this. Right? We'll ask, why do you want to do an economics degree? I think you all can answer this. Right? This is also what happens in interviews now. Not regular reference. They ask this kind of questions. Like they'll say, okay, are you familiar with Manrega policy? If you say yes, then we'll say, okay, how do you understand that? I think you can all answer this question. So this is what it is. You should not be scared at all about it. And if you think that your English is not perfect, no one thinks it's perfect. Don't think that I cannot speak English like some. Absolutely. Useless.
Sir, another big problem is, I've seen some of our students who graduate from our college, they got admissions in EBU, but they rejoined. And we asked them, say, sir, their parents are not ready to send them to out of the state. They want to join in local places. This is another.
That is a problem for many students. Especially girl students. I understand. Uh, we cannot go university. You have to ask your parents. Is it okay if I get in? Okay, and you need to convince. And you tell them that these are the benefits that they are providing free scholarship. They are good institutions. Their jobs are also. So it's very rare that parents will not, unless there is a really big issue or it, it's a lot of it is about making your parents convince you that okay, it's okay to. And the thing is, there are so many students from Andhra and Telangana. Lot of our, we sometimes tell our students don't make friends with Telangana people because you speak only in Telugu. Right? You make friends with people from Maharashtra or someone from North so that your English will improve.
So, after after joining the MBA, do you encourage the students to by doing the coaching kind of to appear for public service 6 to and IAS?
That we do not have any coaching for IAS.
Your university is
It's very coaching is it's not our priority.
encouraged for public service.
The thing is, we do not have anyone who can do that. People have to do it on their own. We do not have any coaching.
So I think it's almost time to close up, but let me also quickly compliment what my friend said about like English as a language or math. Think about it, it's also a language. Now, for example, is you go to AML. This is a mathematical expression of flow. So it's a language. It's like English, Sanskrit, French, Italian. Math is also a language. Uh, what I want to tell you is that, of course, there's a certain level of math or statistics skills that would be required or expected. But having said that, I also want to let you know that we have lots of courses in the institute. At the institutional level we have, and also at the peer level. So those who are very adept at maths or stats are separated out, and then we ask them to sit with their other students who are very weak in maths. Because sometimes students are more free, they feel more free to be with students than coming and ask more kinds of doubts to the fact. So I'm saying that we have a lot of built-in support system, both for English as a language and also for your math. So I think we have a lot of people we explore so that peer tutoring system within the class, and also sometimes at the institutional level, we have all the support system built. I'm saying you don't have to really worry think too much about English proficiency or mathematical proficiency. Don't have to worry too much. As you go on, you learn the process. So you have that just constantly learning by doing.
Thank you very much, sir. I thank Professor Amarna and Professor Nida Kulkarni for this valuable and I thank Professor Amarna and Professor Nida Kulkarni for this valuable and very interactive session. And sirs, you have interactive session. And sirs, you have clarified all the doubts of our students. So now I request Ms. Rekha to propose the vote of thanks.
This evening, good afternoon to everyone. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful program. On behalf of the organization, I would like my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, Professor Azim and Professor Nida Kulkarni from Azim University. You truly inspired us today. Thank you. Our sincere thanks to Secretary Sir, Head of the Dr. Nicola Ma'am, Principal Dr. Hemamani Ma'am, who handled the sessions to us. A wide round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made the event memorable one. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us make this session a grand success. I even want to thank Kama Reddy and Arbo. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you all.